let me roll up my sleeves. Getting sweaty just talking about it. So
it is ginormous. The total storage of the current cluster is just over 400 terabytes.
It really is trillions of data points. That was what our goal was when we started building Ocient.
Whenever you get into like really innovative, record-setting, difficult capabilities, it's all about the people. And it applies both for, as the vendor, but also the customer, because it's definitely a team effort.
Can that go in the outtakes clip?
Well, hello, I'm Chris Gladwin, the CEO and co-founder of Ocient, which is a hyperscale data analytics solutions company. And today, we're trying something new. So welcome to the first edition of what we're calling Big Bytes with Ocient, where we grab a virtual drink with one of our friends, one of our customers, and in the future, other customers and industry leaders. And we'll be talking about massive hyperscale data sets across the world. Really interesting stuff. Today, we're going to talk to and drink a little bit with Michael Freiman, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Basis Global Technologies. We're also joined by our colleagues, Jason and Shantan. Thanks for joining, Jason and Shantan. All right, so I guess to start off, if you guys could maybe introduce yourselves briefly and tell us also what you're drinking today. Michael, how about you?
Hello, like Chris said, I'm Michael Freiman. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Basis Technologies. I'm a very happy customer of Ocient. I consider many of the guys have become my personal friends over the years. And today I'm drinking Imperial Stout. Cheers, guys.
Awesome. Fantastic. How about you, Jason?
Jason, I'm a distinguished engineer here at Ocient. And I am drinking a hazy IPA. I like big, bold beers. So not necessarily just IPAs. Stouts are great too, but got to be big and bold.
Yep. And then next time, I'm sure one of these times there'll be a Malort involved, which is even bigger and even bolder. All right. How about you, Shantan?
Hi, Shantan Kethireddy. So I run technical sales at Ocient. I've been around here for about 4 years. I was at IBM for about 18 years. And I am drinking a Heller High Watermelon 21st Amendment Brewery beer.
So what I'm drinking, I have two things. So my girlfriend is like a ferment master. So the first thing here, this is it's a strawberry water kefir, and so she used little like kefir grains, and then it's fermented strawberry. It actually, when you look at it, I'm not going to spend too much time, but it almost looks like a beer because it's really foamy. It's tasty.
Looks wonderful.
The other thing is this is a raspberry pine. It's basically a mead. It was fermented with a little bit of honey. There's no yeast. And the little fun fact about this is the pine needles were like the long pine needles. I think it's a white pine from our Christmas tree.
Merry, 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 Merry Christmas. Merry, 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 Merry Christmas.
I guess first a question for you, Michael. Tell us more about Basis. What does the company do?
In 2017, we have launched Basis as the workflow automation and optimization and data reconciliation platform for the digital ad tech, and haven't stopped since. The goal is quite ambitious to make it the place where people conduct their business, so they don't have to switch between systems, do billing or reporting on data reconciliation, and they can run all their campaigns across all digital ad channels using Basis.
And one of the things I was really interested to learn about was just the scale of data that ad tech deals with. My understanding is there's something like 10 million digital auctions every second around the world. I mean, how much data are you dealing with at Basis?
We are looking every day, every 24 hours, at roughly 300 billion auction bid requests, which we bid on roughly 1.5 to 2 billion. We win about 200 to 250 million of them. And then there are post-wins events that we are tracking, such as clicks, conversions, video processing, and other events. Just to give you an idea of the scale, right? And as a typical DSP, we have multiple data centers, bespoke data centers with up to 700 bidder and event servers that are handling all these events. And the amount of data, various types of data that these servers produce are absolutely massive.
Yeah. And it's not just that there's, a billion, bid and asks. There's all this other data that goes with it. All the different bid and asks are important to understand, and then all this data about, the characteristics and attributes of the different people doing things. So a lot of times advertisers, I guess, are looking for things like certain age ranges or demographics or zip codes or whatever as they're placing bids. And so the data set just gets enormous, right?
Not only we're talking about a huge volume of data, but we also have to deal with a very short response time. When the bid request comes at a bidder, we have about 50 milliseconds to respond to it with either a bid on behalf of one of our customers or no bid, which means we will not participate in this auction. If we take longer than that to respond, we're out of the game.
In the first meeting that we had with Michael, if you remember, we did our pitch, and his first questions were, tell me about your joint access methods and tell me about your index aggregation. So clearly he knew something about OLAP databases and MPP.
Right from the get-go, just even getting data into the system, we're talking about somewhere around 60,000. Sometimes we hit, peaks that are over that 70, 80,000 documents a second. And these aren't, nice, well-structured rows. These are massive JSON documents.
Why did you guys think about Ocient? Was there like a general project, hey, we got to do something different? Or what caused you to look at Ocient?
Oh, it was simple. I just woke up one morning and thought, why not Ocient? Because, the name sounds great. Why not Ocient? Jokes aside, we are always faced with a problem which has two parts to it. One, for most of what we do, we need to consume a huge amount of data at a fairly rapid fashion. And by consuming, what I mean is these servers produce data. In this particular case, in this particular application, it's a log level data. So a JSON document or a record per event that I've described. And that data needs to be parsed, understood, columnarized or otherwise structured, and stored for future use. And users are multiple. So one, you need to be able to consume this data, and there is no time to waste because it keeps coming. The platform is running 24/7. The traffic ebbs and flows, but it never stops. This is 24/7, 365, or if you like it, 366 business. On the other side of things, there is a bunch of approaches to using this data that require us to run queries against any potential backend storage system for this data, and we must get answers to the queries quickly. We're talking 3 to 5 seconds ideal response time for a query that could potentially deal with millions, sometimes billions of rows.
Michael talked about the 3 to 5 second response time for these queries. Some of these queries are extremely complicated. I mean, we realized early on, you can't do this without arrays. It really is array set processing. And so, we didn't have arrays at that point, but we knew that we were going to need it to pull this off. And then how do you build all the indexing on top of that? Because you're still not going to hit 3 to 5 seconds without that indexing.
For a while, we were using Elasticsearch-based cluster to achieve some of these goals. Some of them were not achievable, or at the very least, not achievable at the cost that we were willing to throw at it.
He was questioning, why should I choose Ocient when I have something like Elastic that already works okay and it's doing the job? But going back to those questions he was asking, it's clear to me that he had in his mind something more. So what is more? When we're talking about these types of workloads, Elastic was running forecasting, but then when you look at the more complex workloads like inventory compiler or bid shading, when you're looking at all 30, 40 billion rows in one table and joining it to 30, 40 billion rows in another table. And oh, by the way, it's not just 30 or 40 billion rows. Each of those rows has hundreds of array values. So it's trillions of data points that you're combining. In order to do that in Elastic, you have to run those queries one by one throughout the entire 24 hours, where in a relational database management system, you can run them as a single query or a handful of queries in a nightly window or through grouping and sorting and other SQL semantics. But I think what Michael recognized is that traditional relational database management systems are not designed to do those types of things and do the streaming and do the joins and, handle this type of workload at the scale that we're talking about. And if they're able to handle the scale, they can't deliver the I/O fast enough. They can't do the multidimensional array analysis. And so, for these types of workloads that we were talking to Michael about, we could deliver all of these workloads in one solution.
For us, it was not easy, because you were one of our early customers, and not only were we deploying this kind of record-setting capability, but this is a brand new platform. We were bringing to market.
When I first started learning about AdSec and understanding, the use case here, I was just blown away by the volume of data. You're looking at, tens of billions of rows, but then you have, hundreds, sometimes thousands of elements in the arrays within those rows, right? Now, I mean, it really is trillions of data points. And I had never seen anything like that. Now, that was what our goal was when we started building Ocient. It was pretty surreal at the time to actually see it, right? To see it in reality and see a use case. And there were some moments of hesitation, like, oh man, let's sit down and do the math on this, and is this actually going to work out? And exactly how fast does this piece need to be, and how fast does this piece need to be, and what does it need to look like for the numbers to actually add up to 3 to 5 seconds, and what does it have to look like to be able to do these mixed workloads where you have these critical 3 to 5 second queries, but you also have these monster long running report queries going on. And we have ad hoc stuff going on in the system. And really, when you sit down and you take all those pieces together and you say, what does each individual component have to look like? How does it have to perform? How does it have to respond? And you try to add that all up and make sure it meets the goals. We put targets on what all those pieces needed to look like, and we said, yeah, we could do this. But until we had broken it down into all those pieces to see what the plan actually was to make this happen, it was just like, wow, this is I haven't seen a request for performance or SLOs, anything like this ever in my career. So that was daunting. But it ended up being a lot of fun. Once we knew we had a plan and we knew we could do it, it was really fun to make it happen.
It was incredibly challenging and complicated, but both Ocient engineers and members of the Basis DSP platform team put a lot of elbow grease and sweat equity and whatever other cliches you want to throw at it, but basically put their brains to work and were willing to cooperate, and that was the recipe for success here.
This is in my opinion, one of probably the most complex engagement I've ever run in my life. I first met Michael. Well, let me roll up my sleeves because I'm getting sweaty just talking about it. So Michael's request was, I need sophisticated workload management. Don't mess up my campaign forecasting SLO, but I also want to be able to run campaign bid filtration, bid shading. I want to be able to run a Spark query using the generic driver. And so we were able to deliver that and basically deliver the end-to-end solution from streaming to loading the data into arrays and multidimensional arrays to be able to do all of these orthogonal workloads in the same system with workload management, but also doing things like sophisticated joins, sophisticated correlated subqueries, adding Spark on top of it, those types of things.
This particular data set is unique. It's comprised of a randomly selected 2% sample of my entire bidding traffic, plus all the wins, all the bids, and all the post-win events I was talking about. It is ginormous. The total storage of the current cluster is just over 400 terabytes. As I've mentioned in costs, that's why I talked about costs, it's very expensive to run and maintain because it's such a unique and expensive data set. Not only a lot of software solutions rely on it, but there are also humans, people from inside the company that do debugging, business analysis, campaign analysis on behalf of customers, both internal and external, that need to be able to access that data set. Normally, it's a huge no-no, because if there is a software, production critical path software that relies on that platform, anything that doesn't have an advanced resource management would absolutely have to kick users off it, because some human running some select star queries across a huge data set can bring your entire production infrastructure down. And that's a huge no-no. Again, 24/7, 365, we're losing money every second. That system is not top-notch.
Whenever you get into like really innovative, record-setting, difficult capabilities, it's all about the people. And it applies both for, as the vendor, but also the customer, because it's definitely a team effort.
In Ocient, we have all of the features that we need for an end-to-end solution to really operationalize this thing. When we say operationalize, we mean at the end of the POC or pilot, the customer is running in production. We don't just wheel in a box and then the onus is on the customer to make it work, right? We are a partner to make this go into production. And the goal that we always have is to use our end-to-end solution. And what we say is to drive next generation innovation for customers. What that means is to move from like Blockbuster to Netflix type thing. And you can't do that unless you have an Abai or a Mansoor or an Edward on, basis side, and you have our team working hand in glove together on these workloads. And so when we were working together in this consultative spirit of consultative partnership, we were able to really understand, hey, what's going to drive next generation innovation for not just forecasting, but bid shading and supply chain analysis and all of these types of things. And I think given that, and these are people that are wearing many hats, right, on basis side, that have a lot of jobs, that are that are working on a lot of different things, but they came to the table in order to really drive this innovation under Michael's guidance. And we were able to also predict what types of things that basis might need in the future.
So my next question is, what's next for, from your point of view, Michael, with Ocient at basis? What are you thinking we're going to do next?
But this is not the only data-related problem situation, however you want to frame it, that basis has to deal with. Currently, one of the things that we're looking at is transitioning into the cloud. As we're doing that, our requirements for various delivery data storage systems evolve and change. And so one of the things we would be exploring is a potential to run either hosted by Ocient or, in this case, hosted by Basis solution, now based in the cloud rather than in a data center. And so being able to scale, at the very least, the processing layer of something like Ocient elastically.
I need to wrap it up by thanking you all for taking the time to talk a little bit about this project. It was really a blast to be a part of. And it's great to hear, Michael, that about the success, that it's working, because that's really what it's all about. And we're looking forward to doing more together. And so thanks again for joining our first Big Bytes with Ocient. We'll have more of these, and you can go to the Ocient.com website to learn about what else is out there.
Kudos, cheers to Ocient people. Pleasure. Good luck with all your future endeavors.
Cheers.